135. Emperor Wu of Liang becomes a monk. After northern Wei fell into internal chaos, the Liang dynasty in the south attempted multiple military campaigns against the north. However, Emperor Wu of Liang was an inept military commander, failing to reclaim lost territory and instead causing countless casualties among both soldiers and civilians. Once northern Wei split into eastern Wei and western Wei, neither successor state had the strength to invade the south, allowing the Liang dynasty to enjoy a prolonged period of stability. Emperor Wu, having witnessed the downfall of the Song and Qi dynasties due to violent power struggles within the royal family, adopted a lenient approach toward his own relatives. If a royal family member committed a crime, he would merely scold them mildly rather than impose any serious punishment. One of his younger brothers, Prince Xiao Hong of Linchuan, was notoriously greedy, hoarding vast amounts of wealth. His mansion contained dozens of locked storage rooms, which were rumored to be filled with weapons for a rebellion. Concerned about this possibility, someone reported Xiao Hong to the emperor, claiming he was stockpiling arms in preparation for an uprising. Hearing this, Emperor Wu was startled. He personally led the imperial guards to search his brother's residence. When Xiao Hong saw the emperor, he became visibly nervous, further arousing suspicion. The emperor ordered him to open every storage room for inspection. To everyone's surprise, more than 30 storage rooms were filled not with weapons, but with silver and coins, totaling over 300 million units of currency. Other rooms contained an overwhelming stockpile of fabric, silk, cotton, and other goods. Xiao Hong, terrified that his illicit wealth had been discovered, expected to be punished severely. However, Emperor Wu simply turned around, smiled, and said, "Ah, sixth brother, you seem to be living quite well." From then on, the emperor, convinced that his brother had no political ambitions, actually trusted him even more. Double standards in governance. While Emperor Wu was excessively lenient toward royals and aristocrats, he imposed harsh laws on the common people. Anyone who violated the law was severely punished. If a single person fled their obligations, their entire family would be sentenced to forced labor. This system emboldened corrupt officials and nobles, who became even more lawless. Some even committed murder in broad daylight, yet no one dared to interfere. A righteous official named He Chen submitted a memorial to the emperor, listing 4 major issues plaguing the country. Local officials in various provinces were engaging in extreme extortion, leaving the people in misery. The aristocracy was indulging in reckless extravagance and wasting resources. Corrupt ministers held power, abusing their authority and persecuting honest officials. The government was constantly expanding palaces and official buildings, forcing the common people into relentless labor without respite. Although every one of He Chen's criticisms was accurate, Emperor Wu refused to listen. Instead, he dictated a decree rebuking He Chen, portraying himself as an exceptionally wise and virtuous ruler who was both diligent and frugal. He dismissed He Chen's concerns outright. The emperor becomes a monk. Emperor Wu was also a devout Buddhist. He built Tongtai Temple, a massive monastery in the capital of Jinkang, modern-day Nanjing, and visited it daily to burn incense, pray, and lecture on Buddhist scriptures. He claimed that by devoting himself to Buddhism, he was accumulating virtue to protect his people from disaster. However, as he aged, he took his devotion to an extreme, eventually committing a bizarre and unprecedented act. One day, he went to Tongtai Temple and declared that he was offering his body, essentially renouncing his throne to become a monk. This was the first time in Chinese history that an emperor voluntarily became a monk. Since no one dared oppose the emperor, and Buddhism was widely respected at the time, his decision was seen as a public display of devotion. However, after 4 days, the imperial court brought him back to the palace. Later, the emperor realized his mistake. According to local Buddhist customs, a monk returning to secular life had to pay a sum of money to the temple as a redemption fee. The emperor reasoned that he should not be an exception. Thus, he went to Tongtai Temple the second time to offer his body again. When the ministers came to persuade him to return, he refused. Realizing what he wanted, the ministers collected 10 million coins and paid the temple to redeem the Bodhisattva emperor. The monks, delighted by this massive donation, agreed to let him return. A grand procession was arranged, and the emperor was escorted back to the palace. The emperor's ultimate offering. For the third time, Emperor Wu devised an even grander act. When he went to Tongtai Temple to offer his body, he declared that not only was he offering himself, but he was also donating his entire palace and all the land in the empire to Buddhism. Since he had donated more, it logically followed that the ransom amount should be even larger. This time, the ministers had to collect 20 million coins before they could bring him back. That very night, a pagoda in Tongtai Temple caught fire and burned down. The monks immediately rushed to inform Emperor Wu. Clasping his hands together, he solemnly declared, "This must be the work of evil demons." He then issued another imperial decree, proclaiming, "The higher one's spiritual path, the greater the demonic opposition. To suppress these evil forces, we must build an even taller pagoda to overpower them." A year later, he offered his body to the temple once again, and the ministers paid another 10 million coins to retrieve him. In total, Emperor Wu became a monk 4 times, some sources say 3 times, costing the empire 40 million coins in ransom payments, all of which was ultimately extracted from the suffering common people. Chaos and rebellion. Emperor Wu's obsession with Buddhism and negligence of state affairs threw the imperial court into turmoil. Seeing an opportunity, an ambitious warlord exploited the emperor's incompetence, leading to one of the most catastrophic rebellions in Chinese history. 136. The treacherous and unpredictable Hou Jing. In the last year that Emperor Wu of Liang became a monk, he had a strange dream. He saw governors and officials from the northern dynasties surrendering to the Liang dynasty. This, of course, was merely an illusion shaped by his wishful thinking. The next morning, he eagerly shared his dream with his ministers, saying, "I rarely have dreams. This one must be a good omen." Just over 20 days later, a general from Western Wei, Hou Jing, sent an envoy to Liang, claiming that he had grievances against both Eastern Wei and Western Wei and wished to surrender to the Liang dynasty. He also promised to cede 13 provinces east of Hanggu Pass to Liang. Hou Jing's opportunistic betrayals. Hou Jing had once been a trusted general under Eastern Wei's Chancellor Gao Huan, commanding 100,000 troops south of the Yellow River. However, when Gao Huan was on his deathbed, he grew suspicious of Hou Jing and ordered him to return to Luoyang. Instead of obeying, Hou Jing defected to Western Wei. Yet, Western Wei's Chancellor Yuan Tai also distrusted Hou Jing. Although he accepted Hou Jing's territory, he summoned him to Chang'an to strip him of his military power. Seeing through this scheme, Hou Jing refused to comply and turned instead to the Liang dynasty for refuge. After receiving Hou Jing's envoy, Emperor Wu eagerly summoned his ministers to discuss the matter. Most officials advised caution, warning that accepting a northern defector could provoke conflict. However, Emperor Wu dismissed their concerns, believing that this was an opportunity to reclaim the Central Plains. Recalling his dream, he convinced himself that Buddha was guiding him toward victory. Ignoring his ministers' objections, he granted Hou Jing noble titles, appointing him as Grand General and Prince of Hunan. Additionally, he dispatched his nephew, Xiao Yuanming, with 50,000 troops to support Hou Jing. A catastrophic defeat for Liang. As soon as Xiao Yuanming's forces moved north, they were ambushed by Eastern Wei troops. The undisciplined Liang army, having not fought a war in years, was swiftly annihilated, with Xiao Yuanming himself captured. Meanwhile, Hou Jing's forces also suffered crushing defeats at the hands of Eastern Wei, and he fled with only 800 men into the Liang-controlled city of Shouyang. Eastern Wei then sent envoys to Liang, proposing peace negotiations and offering to release Xiao Yuanming in exchange for Hou Jing. When Hou Jing learned of this, he panicked. He disguised one of his men as an Eastern Wei envoy and had him deliver a forged message to Liang, proposing a prisoner exchange. Unaware that this was Hou Jing's deception, Emperor Wu wrote a letter agreeing to return Hou Jing in exchange for Xiao Yuanming. Hou Jing's rebellion. Hou Jing had never been truly loyal to Liang, and after reading Emperor Wu's letter, he realized that his position was precarious. Seeing that he had no future with Liang, he decided to rebel. Although he had been routed by Eastern Wei, he was still more than capable of defeating the corrupt and weakened Liang dynasty. He quickly advanced to the northern bank of the Yangtze River. Emperor Wu ordered his nephew, Hou Jing, to fortify defenses on the southern bank. However, Hou Jing sent secret envoys to Hou Jing, promising that if he betrayed the emperor and helped Hou Jing, he would be made the new emperor. Blinded by ambition, Hou Jing betrayed his own dynasty. He secretly provided Hou Jing's troops with ships and even personally led the rebels across the Qinhuai River, allowing them to march into Jiankang, modern Nanjing. Hou Jing swiftly occupied the city and besieged the imperial palace, Taiching. The Siege of Taiching. Hou Jing tried multiple strategies to breach the palace walls, but the imperial soldiers and civilians fought back fiercely. The rebels set fires, but the defenders quickly extinguished them. They used battering rams, but defenders dropped massive stones, forcing them back. They built siege towers on both the east and west sides, hoping to storm the walls, but the defenders built their own counter-siege towers to block them. The siege dragged on for over 130 days. At the start, Taiching housed over 100,000 civilians and 20,000 soldiers. By the end, most had either died in battle, succumbed to disease, or starved. Fewer than 4,000 people remained. Corpses littered the city, left unburied. The people desperately awaited reinforcements from Liang's provincial warlords. However, despite commanding 200,000 to 300,000 troops, the warlords refused to act, each making excuses and waiting for others to take the initiative. The commander-in-chief, Liu Zhongli, stayed hidden in his residence, drinking and partying daily. One day, Emperor Wu asked a minister what could be done to defeat Hou Jing. The minister bluntly replied, "Your Majesty's officials are all disloyal and corrupt. How can we possibly fight a rebellion with them?" By this point, the situation was beyond salvation. Eventually, the rebels breached Taiching, and Emperor Wu was taken prisoner. Hou Jing's tyranny and death. Hou Jing declared himself Grand Marshal, seizing total power. His first act was to execute Hou Jing, the very man who betrayed Liang to support him. He then imprisoned Emperor Wu, depriving him of food and water. The once powerful ruler slowly starved to death in Taiching. After Emperor Wu's death, Hou Jing installed 2 puppet emperors before finally declaring himself emperor in 551 AD. Hou Jing's rule was marked by extreme cruelty. He massacred civilians, looted cities, and subjected the people to unimaginable suffering. His brutal reign made him widely despised. The fall of Hou Jing. By 552 AD, Liang generals Chen Baxian and Wang Xingbian launched a counteroffensive from Jiangling, marching toward Jiankang. Hou Jing's forces crumbled almost immediately. Fleeing in disgrace, Hou Jing boarded a small boat with a handful of loyal followers. However, before he could escape, he was betrayed and assassinated by his own men. The collapse of Liang and the rise of the Qin dynasty. After Hou Jing's rebellion, the Liang dynasty was fractured beyond repair. The empire descended into chaos, with rival factions fighting for power. Finally, in 557 AD, General Chen Baxian seized control of Jiankang and established the Qin dynasty, proclaiming himself Emperor Wu of Qin. Thus, the once prosperous Liang dynasty came to an end, marking another chapter of instability in China's southern dynasty's period.